So we're going to be revisiting an old project of mine, the Xbox 360 controller. This was a little project I did, and I had an idea. I saw some pictures of the next generation Xbox, and I saw a markup of this. I thought, how about I create something like this for the Xbox 360? And this was the brainchild of that. But when I finally finished this project, there's a lot of stuff that I wish I did a little bit differently. And I thought, why don't we revisit this project, make it for the Xbox One, but make it a little bit better this time. And that's what we'll be doing on this episode. So we're going to quickly go over some of the parts we're going to need for this build. To begin with, we're obviously going to need an LCD screen. For this project, I chose this 7-inch screen with a 1024 by 600 screen resolution, native screen resolution. The reason I chose is because that screen resolution has almost the same aspect ratio as 1080p video, so I thought it would give us the best image of the Xbox One without distorting the image. Because I was looking between this one and 1280 by 800 screen resolution, but the aspect ratio is a little bit smaller, so the image is going to be slightly compressed. And at this small of a screen, you really would have noticed the difference between this screen and the 7-inch 1280 by 800 LCD. So I thought this would be perfect for this project. We're also going to need something to transmit the HDMI signal. For this one, I chose the Rocketfish wireless HDMI kit. Transmit HDMI over 60 gigahertz signal. The reason I chose this is because I got it for like $50 on eBay, which is a steal for wireless HDMI. I tried this. I tried it on my 4K TV, then I tried on the 7-inch screen, and this transmit perfect video, no lag, nothing. I mean, it's just a great video. We're also going to need a controller. That's a given. We're going to need something to power this whole project with. So I'm going to choose between these batteries, whatever can get the smallest overall size. And in a different series, we're going to tackle the audio, but that's not for this episode. So, before we start doing anything 3D modeling wise, we're going to have to tear this down and see what's inside, see what the overall size is. So, I don't see any screw holes, so I'm sure they're probably going to be hidden under these pads. Yep, of course they are. See anything else? I'm assuming probably the top just gets pried off. Oh, that's broken. It doesn't matter. It's not like we're going to be using this. We're going to be putting it in our own case anyway. So I don't see any screw holes holding this in. I see a little clip. Maybe we could just. Oh, yep. Of course, screws are expensive, so limit the use of those. So this little board right here, it doesn't look to be anything more than just a switch. It has a little inductor on there. I'm sure that's probably either like a common or differential choke with some filter caps. I don't see anything else with this, so I'm sure this just takes the 5 volts in, filters a little bit for like a EMC standpoint, but nothing major over there. Yeah, and just gets connected here. This looks like to be just a heat sink because I can see the thermal pad right there, and I'm sure this is probably the antenna right here. It's probably just simple, I don't know, like simple patch antennas with numerous of them just to increase the overall gain, if I'm correct, because I don't see where the antenna is. At 60 gigahertz I could do the math and figure out the overall width and length of the antenna just to see if I'm correct, but I need to know the dielectric constant and loss tangent of the materials for me to find that size out. But okay, so at least we have this out, so we now know what the overall size of this is. So now we're gonna take all this and start modeling on a piece of paper, taking measurement. Then we'll head to the computer and 3D model it. So I ended up drawing the LCD onto this piece of paper because I didn't want to just have stuff going on top of it as I try to find the best placement of all the components to get the smallest, smallest form factors. So I drew it all out dimensions, and I'm gonna use, obviously I have to use these dimensions when I model the enclosure for it. But you know, I've been fiddling around with it. The controller board for the LCD, I actually find out that maybe I could put it on the bottom right here, so all the, you have access to all the buttons right at the bottom, and I would have the wireless HDMI receiver right there, controller board here, and the 3 batteries all right here. And actually, like, this seems to be like the smallest form factor I can get. So if I go like this, so now that I found basically the way I can get it as small as I can go, I'm just gonna roughly draw a shape around it. Small rough, you know, drawing, just so I can get a slight idea how it's all gonna be. Let me just, so I'm gonna take some quick measurements on this. So So now that we have these measurements, we're gonna take it into the 3D modeler and get this all modeled up. Now that I obviously just had like the faceplate all measured up, now I gotta work out how thick the enclosure is gonna be. So looking at this, it looks like the thickest component is probably gonna be the receiver, and it looks like it's gonna be the where the HDMI will stick out of. And I'm just gonna take caliper. Grabbing the wrong part. Just go down so I can get a rough estimate of how thick it's gonna be. So it looks like 20 millimeters. I think this is 20 millimeters plus the 3 millimeters for the screen thickness, and I'm gonna add another. Oh, I'll just go 5 millimeters. Oh, we'll make it. I'm gonna go 7 millimeters to make the back 2 millimeters thick. So which equals total 30 millimeters. So actually the tallest component is going to dictate the total, I guess, thickness of the enclosure. And Yeah, so I just got the stuff off the 3D printer, you know, and the top base plate, you know, I just had that printed, and I messed up on one of the measurements. Down here I made it too long, but I printed a little bit, just another piece, and glued it on, and it fits real good now. This is good. I also made one dumb mistake with this little LCD controller. I had all the buttons centered except for one, so I had to actually go back and desolder and move it to the side a little bit. Now they're all centered and good, so we can progress now. Yep, it's all good. Now we're just going to check the fit of everything else. This is the bottom plate. So let me just make sure I grab the LCD controller board. I don't even know what to say right now. I've never had this much room on any of my projects. There's enough room to do anything you could ever imagine in here. I mean, way beyond anything you could ever. Room. And this one, I still have the heatsink on, but we're obviously going to have to change that up. But as you can see, I mean, everything just fits with a plethora of room. So, awesome. So now, you know, because I want this to look nice, we're actually going to be putting a little bit of fiberglass resin over it. We're going to sand it down smooth and throw a nice black coat of paint on it to match the controller. So I just, you know, threw a slightly rough coat of black paint on here, you know, after I put on some fiberglass resin jelly all over and sanded it down roughly. Nothing, you know, this is not a show finish right now. This is just so I can get it done for tomorrow. It's 5:30 Friday and the Detroit Maker Faire is tomorrow, and I really wanted to show this off and let the kids use it. So I just threw a rough coat of paint on there, and it'll be good enough for right now. So I just roughly put in some of the electronics right now, one being the wireless HDMI, and here's the controller board for LCD. Now right now I'm just splicing together a HDMI cable. I made it smaller because, you know, it's just so thick, and I'm going to need basically these harsh 90-degree bends right here. So I started splicing this together just so I can get a rough fit on it and I can solder everything together. So I was thinking this is probably going to be the best bet for them. Then I'll just have to solder all the cables together. So, you know, there's 4 differential pairs and a couple miscellaneous connections. So I'm just going to make sure I give myself enough room. Probably just so I can shorten them up. I have enough room, probably right there. So I'm starting to solder up the HDMI connector I spliced together. You know, I have these cables pre-tinned. I'm just going to start soldering them together. Now the reason I'm not twisting them is because they're not going to be under tension ever. They're basically just a straight bond, because, you know, you never really want to have solder hold tension or anything because it's not really strong. But they like these are just going to be running or staying straight inside the case, so I'm not really worried about that. They should realistically never move once I close the case together. And so I just, you know, I ended up splicing that HDMI cable together and it all works. And I just tested on my TV, so that's good. So now I'm going to move on to, you know, putting the final touches on the case, putting like a charging port where the charging is going to happen, and the switch. You know, I had an idea. I'm probably just going to mount the switch at like one of these bottom corners, like right before the radius over here. So I'm probably just going to get the Dremel out, but real quick, I'll just mark it up where it's going to cut. So I see that, then the graphite shows up awesome. Alright, so I ended up cutting a little divot out. I'm going to just glue the switch into the case. Now anytime you're hot gluing into a 3D printed enclosure, make sure you keep the temperature on a low, or use like a low watt one. This is just a simple 10 watt cheap one, but it works really well. It heats up pretty fast. So I'm starting to mount stuff inside the case right now. I've mounted the wireless HDMI receiver, and I've also mounted the LCD controller board to the wireless transmitter. So that's all in. Now I'm just placing the batteries how I think they're going to fit in here. And this is basically the look I'm going to have in it. And I think this should be good. It gives me plenty of room to hook up that HDMI cable there. So right now I'm going to start splicing all these wires in there, and I'll basically start splicing all the wires in the case together, all the batteries, put all the batteries in parallel, all the charging together, and it should be good for now. Then we'll start working on the faceplate for the LCD. You know, I have everything in here in the bottom part of the shell, you know, the batteries, the wireless receiver, and the TV or the LCD controller board. Now everything's in its final place and it's set. You know, I screwed it into the case or hot glued down whatever, you know, the batteries in that are hot glued. So before we can fully test it, I'm going to have to basically just glue this to the front of the shell and hand solder it in, because the LCD is not going to turn on by itself, and I don't think it's programmed to go automatically HDMI, so we'll get to that. So I just took off the header for the LCD controller board, or not the controller board, but the actual like menu board, whatever, with all the switches, and directly soldered to the board. And I believe that's everything, and everything should be hooked up correctly. I haven't really tested anything, but we should be ready to fire this up. So I'm going to close the screen. Right now in the living room, I have the Xbox is on, and I have the transmitter on out there, and I'm about to flip the switch for the first time. So that was just a little bonehead mistake on my part. I actually, you know, I unhooked the ribbon cable from the LCD and just didn't plug it all the way back in. But yeah, actually when I plugged it all the way back in, it fired right back up. And so I'm gonna just screw this in, and then I'm gonna start working on the mounting device, something to mount it to the Xbox One control. And I actually thought of, I had one of these, one of the mics that it broke, and I ended up putting a 3.5mm connector. It would be nice to put something in, make a little mounting device where I could mount the controller on top of the control, or mount the LCD on top of the controller where it like swivel back and forth to something. I'm gonna see what I can figure out, and I'll get back to you guys on that. So my vision for this, what I thought would be pretty cool, would be if the screen was just mounted a little bit over the controller like this. And I came up with this little bracket that I would end up just like bonding to the back. And the only issue with that is there's a bunch of leverage at this one point, so I ended up printing out this one little piece that'll go in the USB mini port in here to provide a little bit more structural integrity. And then this will just slide in once it's glued, like that. And well, basically that's just it. You know, I'm gonna actually drill a hole through here and have a little screw holding this stuff in. But besides that, that's it. Then this will just mount on top, and you can loosen the nut you can loosen this nut to get it to whatever angle feels comfortable in your hand. I guess I had it upside down, but like this. So, alright, I'm gonna get to bonding these right now, or this, and then I'll get back to you guys. And she is complete. Just you know, got everything glued in and up. It's running. You guys can see little bracket I did. So yeah, there's already a couple things I'm gonna definitely have to change though. One being the overall thickness, and I gotta add a little bit more support to that middle beam, supporting the weight. It's kind of flimsy, like side to side almost, but not bad for a first off print. I'm definitely gonna have to keep building that up, but it's working. Yeah, my camera girl fell asleep, and it's a little bit past midnight now. Where I was just trying to get this done before the Maker Faire tomorrow. So now gotta put this all into a video and upload it before the Maker Faire tomorrow. So guys, please stay tuned for part 2 of this. Part 2 is we'll finally wrap this up. We'll put this all together. We'll put audio in it and get this and see how this thing runs. Awesome. Thanks.